single use. Kind of a big deal because we pushed it farther than any other city in the country. And it was really, really cool because a lot of young people came out to support the bill. And it really just showed me that the people really do have the power to affect change and really had an impact on us at the city council because the businesses came out really, really, really strong. The hotel industry, food land, the supermarkets, they all came out against us. And when the kids came out, they would do a rally on the lawn at Honolulu Hale. And then the kids would come out. And I'm saying kids because I'm old, but they're young people, came out and said, no, this is our Hawaii. We're fighting for this place and don't listen to them. And there's a lot of council members who actually changed their votes in favor of banning single-use plastics, right? So just fast forward now, when you see them in restaurants, you got to call the Department of Environmental Services, say these guys are using styrofoam because they're not supposed to be using it, right? I mean, the whole thing was, which I think this is compostable right there, because styrofoam is not compostable. It never goes away. It's like single-use plastic, so it'll just break down into microplastics and not go away. But anyway, so we're celebrating in this very building the passage of that bill. That was the last time I was here. But I was asked to talk about what the city and county of Honolulu does to combat and fight against climate change. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you folks like what I have to say, I encourage you to take one of these pamphlets. It's how to submit testimony. Me and my staff, we made these ourselves. So, and we made them in-house, right? But it teaches you folks how to get involved with the process because it's so important to participate in how these laws are made, right? Because oftentimes big business and big companies are represented by expensive lobbyists, and sometimes they're the only voice that we hear. The good news for me is I literally walk door to door in my district, knocking on over 15,000 doors to get elected. So I actually hear from just regular people all the time. I just want to encourage you folks to testify and read up on what we're doing. My office made a new website, honolulucitycouncil.org, right? You can go on there, see who your council member is, what district you are in, how to participate in the process, how to submit testimony online. It's super easy. You can now even testify through your computer. You don't even have to go down to Honolulu Hale, put money in the meter and wait in line to testify. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. This is the Honolulu City Council schedule. It tells you when we're meeting. If you want to come down and participate in person, it tells you right where to go. And there's a couple bills that are coming up this week that I wanted to talk about for you folks to come in. And if you wanted to participate and share your mana'o. But I think the number one thing that the city and county did, and that I'm really proud of, is that we authorized the city and county of Honolulu to sue big oil companies. I know you work for Ashford Risted, and I'm not sure if your firm represents the big oil companies because they hire up all these big law firms, right? Oftentimes these large corporations. So it's like Chevron, Sonoco, ExxonMobil, and others, right? And the idea is, and we actually hired a big law firm from the mainland who's doing this across the country, right? It's kind of like back in the day when states sued tobacco, right? The idea is that the tobacco industry knew that cigarette smoking would cause all these devastating health effects. Well, the idea here is that the oil industry knows that it was causing climate change. The burning of fossil fuel, the burning of their product causes climate change. Yeah. So the city council actually had to approve that, which we did wholeheartedly, and it was unanimous to allow the city attorneys and this mainland law firm to proceed. The good news is, and by the way, what we're suing for is, did you guys see in the news today that a portion of Kamehameha Highway in Hauula fell into the ocean? Mm-hmm. And anybody who drives to the North Shore going around there, that whole road is in danger of falling into the ocean because of climate change. So who's going to pay for that? You guys, taxpayers. You guys are going to pay for that, right? Because you got to move the road inland. That costs a lot of money. But the idea here is, no, we make the big oil companies pay for it. Because they're the ones, hopefully we are able to prove it in the lawsuit, they're the ones causing climate change. And if they knew, just like the tobacco industry knew that it caused cancer, right? And they were hiding those facts, then they should pay for these infrastructure changes that we're all going to have to make. And by the way, there's so much that we need to do to prepare for sea level rise, because it's happening, man. It's happening every day. You guys know who Anthony Alto is from the Sierra Club? So he took me down there to Waikiki during a king tide. And all these, during king tide, the water is seeping into these hotels, their basements, right? And who's going to pay for that, right? Could you imagine if one of these hotels fell into the ocean because of their foundation got rotted away by seawater, right? Waikiki generates, I think, 42% of the revenue from tourists coming in, right? So if these hotels aren't able to host guests, the state's not going to make any money, and we're in a world of hurt. So I introduced a bill that would require inspections of these hotels, and then have the hotels tell us what are they doing to fortify their hotels to make sure that our number one industry and how we support our government, basically, how are they gonna deal with climate change? Because you notice by the Sheraton, right? And leading to Halekulani Hotel, that beach is going away. It's gone. That walkway is closed. You can't walk down there anymore, right? So I'm asking the hotels, what are you guys doing about this? We, the city, has paid a lot of money, kicked in with the actual businesses in Waikiki to do beach restoration, which is a big deal. And then you guys saw that new berm, not berm, it's actually a jetty that they built. You know, it is actually working to keep the sand there. But if you go on the other side, remember the shorebird used to be? There's no beach over there. That's how you paddle out to go to Pops, the surf spot. There's no beach over there, right? It's gone. So I'm kind of jumping around, but I'll come back to beach restoration. But so that's the one big thing that we're doing. We're actually suing the oil companies to get them to help pay for the cost of mitigating against climate change. The other thing I wanted to point out, if you guys ever want to look it up, it's in Civil Beat. They've done articles about it, and you can read more about the lawsuit. But in Honolulu, they got by summary judgment. There was a motion, it's a legal term, right? Summary judgment, when you want to dismiss the suit. So we got by, it was during dealing with jurisdiction. Basically, the oil companies were saying that the city and county of Honolulu doesn't have any jurisdiction to sue them, and it should be in federal court. Judge Crabtree denied the motion, which was a huge hurdle because no other city has gotten this far. It's currently in the discovery phase. The discovery phase means we can go and ask for documents. We can see the research that they were relying on. And I know as a lawyer, you probably know this, that they'll probably just paper us to death, but you got to spend the time and read everything because it's important. But anyway, so that's one thing. Tomorrow at 2:30 in the Housing and Sustainability Committee, there is a resolution that me and the chair of that committee wrote. It's 23-3. It's asking the city to comply with the Paris Climate Change Agreement, right? And the city, I mean, you guys saw on the federal level where the former president was saying that, no, we're not going to comply with that. So each of the cities would say, well, we're going to do it. So this is up for tomorrow if you guys are interested. And again, you can submit testimony or testify. It teaches you how to do that. But if you guys want to read this, I'll leave that with you. Kind of interesting. But that's on for tomorrow at 2:30. The other thing that's on this week is Bill 41. Bill 41 is dealing with shoreline setbacks. You know, you go to the mainland in Los Angeles and you go look at their beaches. They're huge and wide because people weren't allowed to build close to the ocean. Not here in Hawaii. The current, well, the law up until recently was 25 feet. You could build 25 feet from the high water mark. The high water mark is determined by the upper reaches of the seasonal surf, usually marked by vegetation. You can go from there, your private property, 25 feet back. Of course, what's happening on the North Shore right now, all those people who built on the beach, their homes are falling into the ocean, right? And they want the city, meaning the taxpayers, to bail them out, right? They want us to condemn the property and pay fair market value. And I feel bad for these people. But guess what? You guys are paying because it's your tax dollars. If we condemn those houses, you're paying for it. So I object. I'm like, no, I don't think we should be paid for it. If you chose to build your home that close to the ocean, that's a bad idea. Anyway, what Bill 41 does, it sets it back, yeah, to 60 feet within the urban core. So like from Kahala down to Pearl Harbor, 60 feet. From 25 feet. Everywhere else on the island, it's 60 feet plus 70 times the annual coastal erosion rate. So the scientists got together, they looked at the maps, they looked at what the sea level rise is going to look like, and multiply that by 70 times plus 60 feet. So everywhere else in the island, you're pushed back quite a bit. Now, this is going to be kind of controversial. It's on for Thursday morning at 9:30. If nothing else, just tune in and watch because it's going to be controversial because people are saying, wait, that's my property. How can you say that I'm not allowed to build on it? And I get it, right? I feel bad for these people, but think about this. If people keep building close to the ocean, they're going to want to put a seawall to protect their house. And if they put a seawall, guess what happens to the beach? It's gone. So the idea here is, look, we're not going to allow you to build. But people are going to be really upset about this. But ultimately, the way I look at it is, you know, this island, I was born and raised here, right? Grew up paddling canoe and surfing. And you know, my kids aren't going to be able to experience the same place that I did and my father did growing up, right? How about my kids' kids and my kids' kids' kids? No beach. Can you imagine what this place would be like if there's no beach, right? It'd be terrible. I mean, people are already talking about Waikiki, like we're going to make a wooden walkway over, right? I mean, how sad is that? Could you imagine that, taking a surfboard, jumping off the wood and paddling out? I bet you if there's no beach, that might actually affect the surf too, right? Because the sand is what allows the waves, you know, you hit the shallows and it pitches up. But so the idea here is to increase the setback. So if you guys believe that this is important, jump on tomorrow, submit written testimony. Is super easy, right? To actually to get involved. But that's coming up. Beach access. Are you guys interested in beach access? Right? What a lot of people have been doing around the island has been putting up gates. Right? Putting up gates and saying, no, 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 that's my beach. So in Portlock, yeah, in Portlock, this one gentleman bought this home and he put up a gate. So there's 26 lanes that along Portlock Road that take you to the ocean. And out of the 26 lanes, only 2 of them have a sandy beach. Yeah, one all the way at the end towards Huinala Canoe Club, that side of Portlock Road, but lane N right? This guy puts up a gate. And the worst part about it is he went online and started advertising a short-term rental. He rent his house out, short-term advertising your own private beach. So they've been trying to get him to take it down for years. And back when you were saying you're working for Jeremy Harris, I think John Yoshimura, my high school law school classmate, was the chair of the whole city council. He got sued by the homeowner when he tried to pass a law to require him to take down the gate. What we did when I first got on the council, because again, beach access is important to me. I put in a resolution to condemn the property. Right? Condemnation is a tool that government can use, but basically you're taking private property, but you have to pay fair market value. The good news is the circuit court said, well, this piece of land is just a walkway. It's worthless. We'll give them $1. Anyway, the trial is coming up for that in April. But how condemnation works is you can take control over the property if the likelihood that you were going to win the lawsuit. So circuit court ordered that he has to take the gate off, and the city took control over the lane. So we're providing beach access there. And the whole community of Port Lock and Hawaii Kai, like, they were so happy because this guy would just put up the gate and deny access. A couple of times local people would go in there, take the gate off at midnight, but he'd put it back up. So finally it's down, and I think it's down for good. But that inspired me to go look around the rest of the island and see where else are these gates. You ever surfed outside of Wailupe's? There's a gate there. When we were kids, we used to jump over. I don't know. This is being recorded, yeah.
It's gonna go on YouTube.
This is like 40 years ago. We used to jump over the gate and go surf out there. But I always thought it was private property. But if you do the research, you cannot deny access to the ocean. Right? I mean, that's what makes this place so special. So I'm willing to fight for that and try to get these folks, like, all along East Honolulu and Diamond Head. There's gates all over the place, you guys, if you haven't noticed. And it's terrible. So that's something that the city and I want to work towards to get that open up. I talked about shoreline setbacks.
How do you know which one is private property or beach access if there's gates on it?
So that's a great question. So one of the things I do is we have lawyers in the city, and I'll usually write a letter and ask them to go do the research. Kamehameha schools used to own all the land going all the way from Kahala to Hawaii Kai. Back in the 80s, there was mandatory lease to fee conversion, meaning that there's this seminal case, the Midkiff case, they call it, that required Kamehameha schools to sell their land to the homeowner because all of it was leasehold. Anyway, my research that I'm currently doing and what happened in Hawaii Kai, in Port Lock, Kamehameha School says when they transferred the land over, right, they retained an easement over these beach accesses, not only over the beach access, but a swath of land that fronted the ocean. So I'm working with Kamehameha schools like in Hawaii Kai to show, no, like these guys in Port Lock have been building seawalls along the property that Kamehameha School still owns an easement on. And I hope I'm not getting too technical here, but so I'm working with them to find out, because if that's true in Hawaii Kai, perhaps it's true going all the way down along Kalani'anole Highway from Hawaii Kai to Kahala. The good news is Kahala hasn't closed it down. But I tell you what, have you guys ever walked on the beach in Kahala? The homeowners are putting sprinklers out and watering the naupaka to get it to grow. And then they're moving their fences more towards the ocean and claiming this land that's not theirs, right? And then some of it is already getting all the way to the ocean where you can't even walk along the beach because it's vegetation. So I've been trying to get DLNR, and they have been a little bit better, get DLNR, because the state has jurisdiction over the the ocean and then up to the high water mark. So I can't get them to do it, but DLNR can. Get them to chop that down. But if you guys ever want to go on a tour, and I can actually show you this, and then when I actually draft up the legislation, you guys can come in and again testify and say, yeah, I saw it myself. This is what they're doing. Because it's terrible, right? A lot of people along Kahala Avenue, they don't live here. They're vacant homes. Yeah,
Give my ignorance, I thought all beachfronts. What are the laws here? You can buy the water rights on out or something?
no,
It's like in Oklahoma, you can buy the land, the house, but you don't own the mineral rights underneath it. So I thought all beach in the United States was public.
yep. So in Hawaii, the beaches are all public. But what's happening is the private homeowner is planting vegetation that is creeping towards the ocean and then claiming that land as their own. And it's
So how
wrong.
are these guys building gates if it's public land?
They are just doing it and it's illegal and they're not supposed to do it.
This also rises that, God, if I want to put a sink in, I gotta have a building permit. How are they doing all this construction without
So it's not construction. It really isn't construction.
going in and
It's,
pouring cement?
no, they're
Like
not.
those retaining walls they were talking about, where they were.
So we're
built?
talking about two separate things,
Yeah.
yep. In this case, in Kahala, they're just growing vegetation.
Mhm.
And you gotta go and look, it's like chain link fence, or in some cases, you'll take like a stump, right, and then just put a little rope going like this. Looping, and if you just look at it, a common person would think, oh, that's private property, there's like a line. But those like me and my colleagues and DPP, I tried to get them down there to say, hey, look. But it's actually the DLNR that has to enforce that, Department of Land and Natural Resources, which is a state agency, not the city. But my job, I look at it is, because I live here and that's my district, point out to DLNR that, hey, look, guys, I'll take pictures and email them, the administrators, and you gotta make these guys take it down. And the community at the Kahala neighborhood boards, by the way, I go to 7 neighborhood boards a month.
And they get pissed and try and vote you out.
No, they're on my side. So, no, the neighborhood boards and the community is on my side.
Mhm.
Like oftentimes they're the ones who point this out to me. Right? People who are doing it, those are the folks, and if you ever just go walk down Kahala Avenue, you can see a lot of these homes are vacant. Right? It's these foreign investors who, it's a good place to invest money because in 5 years it's going to be worth $100,000 or more, worth more than what you bought it for, right? That's a whole nother thing, not dealing with climate change, but one of the bills that I've introduced twice now, to charge vacant homes a higher property tax. Right, get a lot of people coming to Hawaii, investing here, and they're just leaving the homes vacant. It takes it out of local people who want to own a home and renters. Right, so the idea is a vacancy tax. Aloha, come to Hawaii, e komo mai. But we're going to charge you a little bit higher than everybody else. Right.
What about passing legislation when they buy a new house that they sign off that they can't claim that waters have risen and they want to sell it back or have the government pay for it? What are we talking about?
No, that's a great point. And
it's like people who move in next to airports and go, holy shit, there's noise here. They got tired of that real soon.
yeah.
All those lawsuits against airports and cities.
So anytime you want to build or renovate within the special management area, so all along the island, and I can't tell you how large this area is from the ocean inland, but it's called a SMA permit, special management area permit. So now what I've been doing is every time somebody comes in, because you have to get council approval to get this SMA permit. Every time that these applicants come in, I do exactly what you're saying. I argue to put in there that you will not, if we allow you to build this close to the ocean, and again, it's gonna be within the setback. But still,
You know, we bought houses in California, we had signed contracts stating that we understood it was next to agriculture, and we couldn't sue them because of pesticides and animal pollution and all that stuff. Like, they had written contracts.
so that was the government had you sign a contract as part of your,
State government, California.
Closing.
Whenever closing, you have to sign these papers saying you understand.
I like that. No, in California, I mean, no sense recreating the wheel, like I just look up what California does and
People move
perhaps.
in and They
we should
sue,
do
'cause
here.
they go, oh my God, you got a permit up here. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting.
But isn't that kind of bring up, I saw something in the paper about Obama was trying to build a property and he wanted to be able to build a fence or
A seawall, so he was allowed,
seawall.
he was
Yeah.
allowed to repair his seawall. Yeah, that was a little bit sticky because the Department of Planning and Permitting gave him the permit. And we're like, wait, how did he do that? Like, how was he allowed to do that?
Who
Right?
was the president?
That they found a loophole. They found a loophole and they just gave it to him. Yes. But the other thing the city is doing is beach restoration. So you guys probably saw in Waikiki, remember that huge mound of sand that was on Kuhio Beach? Waikiki Beach is an iconic beach, right? People say that if there's no Waikiki Beach, people aren't gonna come and visit here, right? You can go elsewhere. So the city kicks in some money, the state kicks in some money, and we created this Waikiki Beach Improvement District Association. You guys ever heard of that? It's the businesses in Waikiki, right, who benefit from the beach. So they kick in money too. And they're the ones who actually help finance the beach restoration. So what we do is we have these boats that go outside of canoes and suck up sand and then put it on the side, let it all dry out, and then they spread it over the beach. But we do that every couple of years because just the nature of the waves takes the sand away. But it's expensive. It costs like 10 million bucks every time we do it. So that's Waikiki. There was $10 million in the budget in 2020 to do Ala Moana Beach Park. You guys notice Ala Moana is super rocky now. Unfortunately, COVID happened, and then Mayor Caldwell took the money to do more COVID-related things. So got to understand that. That was back before the federal money came in, the kickback money and the American Rescue Plan money. So you took that, but that's definitely something we got to look at, is replenishing the sand at Ala Moana Beach Park. Yeah.
Are the hotels the one there, like the one that's totally eroded? It's up to the wall. Are the hotels looking at anything like bringing in rock and building that back out? I mean, you can throw sand back on there, but it's just gonna wash away unless you put a foundation down.
Yes, so at Ala Moana, no hotels.
Right.
Waikiki, yes, hotels. And the hotels are part of the Waikiki Beach Improvement District Association, who kick in money for the sand restoration. So one of the things that they did do, if you go outside of the, I guess it's between the Sheraton Hotel and the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, there's this new groin that goes out and takes a left turn. So even that's kind of controversial because like Keone Downing and others saying, no, that's going to mess up the surf. We don't want these cement structures, right? But I have to say, if you go down there, it actually is keeping the sand everywhere from the actual groin going towards Hawaii Kai. You can see it, the sand's coming back, it's accumulating. But here's the thing, everything on the other side, the Eva side of that is gone.
Mhm.
So now they're thinking, okay, we gotta build another one, half a mile there to hold the sand there. And end up, what's gonna end up happening, and super scary, is you got a whole bunch of those all along the beach, and they're kind of ugly because they're big cement structures. But that's what the scientists are telling us that we need to do to keep the sand there, right? Because it does wash away. And it's just a stopgap measure by going and sucking it up outside of canoes and the other place and bringing it back, and it's super expensive. I just drafted a bill. I mean, I kind of started by talking about it, but asking the hotels, what else are they gonna do, right? Because they're all insured, right? These hotels. My concern is that, unless they help us and work with us, that these hotels are eventually gonna fall apart. Remember in Florida, that building collapsed? Yep. Was it the swimming pool water?
Yeah.
But same thing, I mean, we got the seawater now seeping in. Very, very scary.
If they impose a visitor's tax on them. For hotel ones. For staying.
Anytime we talk about taxes, by the way,
Oh, my God.
it's, as a politician, people get very, very upset. We have a problem with stormwater here in Oahu. Right? We just settled a huge lawsuit with constituents in my district because of that big rain bomb. Remember that happened in April of 2018, and it flooded Aina and New Valley and Kuli'o'o, right? It's costing us millions of dollars, but the storm drains are too small. When they were built 50 years ago, nobody anticipated that we'd have so much construction and so many homes built. So now what happens is when it rains, they fill up and people get flooded. So the administration wants to impose a stormwater utility fee. Kind of controversial. Have you guys heard about this? So every homeowner would have to pay a fee. And this would go into a pot of money so that we can upgrade all the stormwater drains and pipes and everything like that. Anytime you talk about a fee, people get very upset because it is another tax. Yeah,
I see their quandary because a lot of times they impose fees and it's like, when will you be done? Well, we don't know. How long is this gonna go on? We don't know. You get this impression it's going into the general fund for other projects instead of, we did a study, it's gonna cost X amount, your taxes are gonna be raised for 10 years and then we'll be done.
here's
They
the,
just say, let's start a fee. Yeah, I'm opposed to those too.
oh yeah, I'd probably lose my job if I pass that. But here's the thing, guys. The great part about this bill is that you can reduce the fee if you capture the water and put it back into the ground. Right? That's the idea. So those people who cement their entire lot would pay the most because all that water hits their lot and runs off into the street, into the storm drains, and then into the ocean. By the way, all of our stormwater goes into the ocean, guys. Right? Which is not safe. And you've surfed outside of Wailupe, that water, it's all brown and there's a lot of minerals in it, and it's actually kind of not safe. A lot of bacteria and whatnot from up in the mountain. But anyway, so you can reduce your fee if you capture the water on your property and you don't cement your property. In other words, we want you to grow trees in your yard, grow grass in your yard, capture the water that comes off of your roof and channel it into the ground. And by the way, that's where our drinking water comes from, right? Our drinking water comes from the rain, percolating through the volcanic rock. If you ever have a chance, well, now after Red Hill, they probably closed the Halava shaft. You could actually take a tour down there and check out the water aquifer. They take you in an elevator that goes straight down. And it's pretty cool. But anyway, so that's something that the council has to debate, right? Whether or not the right thing to do is to probably impose this fee, but it's gonna take some courage to do it because people are gonna be super angry. The cost of living in Hawaii already is so high, and now you're gonna charge me another $25, right? One of the things that I was suggesting to the mayor is use a pot of money from the American Rescue Plan. Let's go use that federal dollars so that we don't have to further burden our homeowners on this island. Right?
Like he was saying,
Have they done
do it as the tourist fee for the hotels. Have the tourists pay it when they're here and
Have they done a study of how much it's gonna cost total?
That's a great question. I'm sure they have, but they haven't shared that with me. So the city's only source of revenue is your property taxes. Yeah. So the state could probably do it much easier than us. But we would have to raise the hotel property tax. So when we raised it $1 a couple of years ago, and the industry really got upset with the city council for doing that. But ultimately, I mean, that's definitely on the table. Perhaps have the visitors help pay for that. But again, if the city does it, it's through your property taxes, right? So, but you also bring up a good point, though. If it's a true utility, right, as opposed to just a fee, it's utility, it goes into a special fund that the city council or the mayor cannot raid. It has to be used for that. And to me, if we're ever gonna pass that, I would support the utility. Don't just call it a utility. It would literally have to be a utility, right? To make it work. Trees. I know you did a talk about tree planting. You guys ever heard of Trees for Kamuki?
Yes.
Dan Donnell?
Do you know he's a member of our club?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was working with Dan. Dan came to me and Ann Kobayashi, who we both shared a portion of Kamuki. We put $500,000 in the budget for Trees for Kamuki. The idea was just to plant trees everywhere. And the lawyers in the city are saying, no, you can't use that for planting trees. We put in the capital improvement budget, right? So you float bonds to do it. So yeah, Dan is awesome.
Mhm.
And if you go in Kamuki, they just did a rain tree area in Kamuki to capture the rain, so it doesn't run off into the storm drains. But that's something super important, right? I mean, it helps with not only looks pretty, but it keeps everything cool, right? Seawater air conditioning, I put in $2.5 million in the budget last year for a company to look into air conditioning downtown using seawater. Other countries do it. Are you guys familiar with this? So on the Big Island, there's this area by the Kona airport that actually has this huge pipe running way out into the ocean, real deep. And down deep in the ocean, the water's cold. So they have technology where you suck up that cold water and you run it through, I guess, a machine that they make, and it cools the air. So you can cool air conditioning using deep sea water. Super expensive though. But the idea at some point is you don't want to be burning fossil fuel to run your air conditioner, right? You want to use deep sea water. The other thing I wanted to point out to you folks, if you guys are interested, I mean, you're talking about what the city does. This is a great resource, right? It's called the Oahu Resilience Strategy, and you can look it up. Their website is resilientoahu.org, resilientoahu.org. And it talks about all these great things that the city should do and could do. So this is kind of like my playbook. I go through it and I'm like, okay, like, and it talks about planting more trees. It talks about seawater, air conditioning. It talks about beach restoration. And I'll take stuff from here and think up a bill, right? This one right here, Bill 41, dealing with the shoreline setbacks, comes from this, you know? So it's super cool, you guys, if you, you know what, I'll leave this with you guys. Check it out. Like if you guys discuss it and have any ideas and you want legislation that I haven't done yet, then let me know. I'll introduce it. Oh, let me draft it. I'll give it back to you folks. And as a group, you can decide, yeah, this is good or not good. And we can amend it. I'll introduce it. You guys testify it, help lobby the other council members saying why this is such a good idea. And really, it kind of empowers you folks, right? Like, wow, I can really get stuff done, you know? And right now, the council situated is very, very open to environmental type legislation, right? Sir,
Can I interject real quick?
Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, just want to say, as a club, as a Rotary Club, we're not able to support any particular policies in general, but there's absolutely nothing stopping us from supporting any of these policies as individuals. Definitely want to spend, well, I want to ask you, because I was just looking at the website, what's it called, the capital.hawaii.gov, and just a quick glance, there's like 32 hearings tomorrow alone, some with one agenda item, some with 7 or 8. How do you kind of winnow what are the most important things to be looking at?
during the legislative session, right, they only meet for 5 months out of the year, and it's a sprint, right? It's really, really difficult. So what I do is you go online and you can get, certain committees are better than others, like the Environment and Energy Committee. I used to be vice chair of that 20 years ago. They do a lot of good work, so you could start there. A lot of the bills have money involved, so it ends up going to the Finance Committee. So you got to watch. What you do is if you find a bill that you like, you go look at what committees it's been referred to, and then you go and follow that committee and find out when those committees are having their hearings.
Yeah, you can track the status of bills too, right? And then
Yeah.
it'll send you a notification when, there's a hearing or something's changed.
Yeah. It's really hard to get legislation passed on the state level because you're competing with so many other bills. As you know, there's probably about 4,000 bills introduced on the state level. The cool part about the city, and by the way, at the state level, you have 51 representatives and 25 senators. So in order to get a bill passed, you got to convince a lot of people. The cool part about the state council, and I've done both, I've been in the state legislature and out in the city, there's only 9 of us, right? So in order to pass any piece of legislation, you only need 5 votes, which is really, really interesting, right? I used to represent Waimanalo and Lanikai in the legislature. I was literally District 51. Not until you get some seniority, you move up the ranks and you get more powerful committees. Not until I was the judiciary chair did I actually start to get legislation passed. But here in the council, that's why it's so neat that one, we meet year round. So we're not sprinting like the legislature is. Of course, we only have Oahu, right, that we deal with, whereas the legislature deals with the entire state. But it's way easier to go to our website. Like the website that you cited was the state capitol website. Ours is honolulucitycouncil.org. It's a website that me and my staff built, actually. We tried to make it as friendly as possible. But you can also sign up for emails that anytime there's a committee. So the committee that I think this Rotary group might be most interested in it's the Housing and Sustainability Committee, right? Matt Wire is the chair of that committee, and he's interested in housing, but he's also interested in sustainability. So I combined them, even though, a lot of bills, they're going to be separate. But you might want to start there. You could go online and anytime he sets a hearing, you'll get an email. And you can see what is on their agenda and click on the bill and you can read the bill. It's pretty cool. HonoluluCityCouncil.org. I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yeah. I do
Cool.
want to also, I heard from another representative recently just saying how, given that there are 4,000 bills that come through, like the ones that are memorable are sometimes the ones where one constituent reaches out about it. Would you say you have the same kind of experience?
So what I used to do over there, and I do at the council, if I draft a bill, oftentimes it's based on meetings like this or others. I'll draft it and send it to the community that it's affecting and get them to come and testify, and they tell their friends. So, the Surfrider Foundation as an example, they got lots and lots of members. So I'll oftentimes give them a copy of the bill, say, spread it to all your members and let them know, and then come and testify. Because I really, as I started with that plastic ban bill, the community got behind this bill so strong that it was able to convince a lot of lawmakers to actually pass it. When I was touch and go for a long time, that I didn't know if this bill was actually going to pass.
Any other questions on Zoom? Or in person before we close out? Yes, Doug.
I have a question. I wanted to go back to the drainage problem.
Yeah.
Who are those communities expecting to pay for the flood when their land floods?
Who are the communities
Their
expected
insurance
to
company.
pay?
So your house floods out, you expecting your insurance company to pay for it? Because if that's the case, then their insurance rates are going to go through the roof.
Yep.
So
So
they're
what?
going to pay for it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Or FEMA's going to come in and say it's a flood zone. Now you need to pay an extra $500 a year
So that
for the
happened.
rest of your life.
Yes. That was really controversial too, when FEMA came in and set the flood zones. Right?
Jesus.
People were really, really upset because their insurance went up, exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking
there you
about.
go.
So FEMA did come and made my constituents fill out applications for help, and they did get some help. But ultimately they sued the city for failure to upkeep the whole drainage system, including the Wailupe stream that hadn't been cleaned in a long time. So I made a point, I took a picture of the stream and I took it to the settlement hearing and I showed the lawyers and I said, you need to talk to the Department of Facility and Maintenance because this rain is going to happen again and you need to clean this stream because it's all overgrown with haunikoa and other trees. And that's what happened. The rain came down with such force that it basically took all that vegetation out. And when it hit the bridge on Kalanianaole Highway, it created a barrier and then the stream overflowed and all those homes got flooded. It was terrible. It was really, really bad. So it cost us $2 million to settle this lawsuit. There were probably about 40 plaintiffs, 40 homeowners who got affected by this flood. Yeah.
So it's not a question of if it's going to happen again, it's a question of when.
Yeah. I mean, scientists say these rain bombs, they say that this was like 100-year flood, but these 100-year floods are happening every couple of years because of climate change, right? I mean, it's really scary when I talk to the professors at University of Hawaii, when they talk about how imminent these things are, right? Do you guys remember this flood in 2018? It was like for 3 hours, just so strong. They called it a rain bomb. Within 3 hours, all that happened and all these homes were flooded. Like it just was really strong. And just the way our climate is situated, with the ocean and the mountain and the hot water or the hot air and the cold water, it's gonna happen again. You know, I'm no scientist and I'm probably reciting the facts not as accurately as the scientists could, but it's really, really scary to think that these things could be happening more and more often. Now, that's pretty much what I have. I'll leave that with you folks. Here's a copy of the resolution. Here's a copy of Bill 41 if you guys want to read. I wrote this requiring Waikiki hotels to do inspections of their hotels so that they don't fall into the ocean.
I'll leave this out when we finish our meeting because we usually hang out anyways after for more questions.
Cool.
So Tommy will be here for more questions.
Sure. I'll leave these two. These are all how to submit testimony. I have my card with my phone number on here if you guys also want to call me and have any ideas for legislation or how we can make our community a better place. And of course, on here is the website. I'm really proud of because we worked really hard on it. We try to make it as friendly as possible. You can learn about who your council member is, what district it is, where you live. And then this is our schedule, which is year round. We're here year round, as opposed to the legislature only a couple months out of the year. Yeah,
Thank you, Tommy.
sure. Oh, thank you.
Oh, speaking of Surfrider, we work with them a lot, especially right now. We're trying to create a composting machine with them in Kaka'ako Community Garden. So they invited us today actually to their Pauhana next week at the Hideout Hotel Hideout Hotel at the Lalo restaurant. It's next week, Wednesday, 6:30 to 8:30. So let's close out our meeting with the four-way test. Please say this with me after I say the first part. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendship? 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And 5, will it be eco-friendly and fun? Thank you.
How would they teach from first grade to think before